Hey, hello, everybody. Welcome to Flipping the Script. It's a Lifeline Capital Group sponsored podcast series that's going to last 10 full series. My name is Roy Sahajai-Seri and my partner, David Lamb. We're going to tell you all about navigating the legal system with a partner like Lifeline and maximizing the assets that you have and those that are facing potentially long-term incarceration. So what the hell is flipping the script? Why are you here? Well, at our core, our business is investments in real estate properties. And we physically transform them sometimes. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes we just take them over. But we're also helping people to change the direction of their lives, create different narratives for themselves, especially those that are facing long-term incarceration. So we'll be pushing an education in how we went through our stories and relaying that to you so that you can hear what we've learned through the process that we've gone through in this 10 series podcast episodes. We're going to be talking about things like arrest and arraignment and preliminary hearings and just sitting there doing the waiting game while you have status hearings, how to pay those freaking legal fees, right? The sentencing, understanding what's next, the appeal process, surviving incarceration once you finally get through all that, and then eventually what happens with life after prison. So the reason we're doing this, we'll tell you a little bit more and you'll understand the passions behind why we're doing this. But we've built some products to be able to give people like yourselves that are facing these type of situations or loved ones that are facing these type of situations, just products that will give you options so that you don't feel so distressed and down because you don't know where the hell you're going to go after this. So why are we doing this? Well, I think by hearing some of our stories, you'll probably understand why we're doing this. So David, why don't you tell them a little bit about yourself?
Yep. Thanks, Roy. My name's David Lamb. I'm a co-founder of Lifeline Capital Group. And as Roy said, the reason why we're doing this is both to help people gain some hope that there is a life after being charged, but also to understand along the way the process, both from a legal standpoint and from a financial standpoint. So a little bit about me. I was a criminal defense lawyer, graduated from law school in 1998, instantly went into criminal defense. That's all I did. That's all I went to law school to do. Early on in my criminal defense lawyering, I also got offered a position at the university to teach law, which I did for the pendency of my criminal law attorney career. In 2005, unfortunately, despite all my accolades and successes as a criminal defense lawyer, I found myself on the other side of the law. I make no excuses. I was guilty, and unfortunately, that cost me a lot. It nearly cost me my life, and it certainly cost me my freedom. And during that time period, despite the fact that I was a criminal defense lawyer myself, I felt woefully unprepared. Unprepared for the financial situation that I was going through, but also the emotional and just the overall sense of dread that I felt during that time period. At that moment in my life, I didn't think that there was ever going to be a time like this where I could regain myself, regain some composure, and get back to doing what I love, which is helping people. So when I say I understand what individuals such as our listeners are going through, I mean it. I always say that I speak fluently in two different languages, criminal defense lawyer and criminal defendant. So I understand what it's like to go into the courtroom and fight the good fight. I understand the procedures and the motions and the investigation and the defenses that are all necessary. And then I also understand what it's like to be standing next to the lawyer, feeling helpless and hearing other people talk about you as though you're not there and feeling the whole weight of the criminal justice system. So I think this is a good time to tell everybody, because I am no longer a licensed lawyer, that privilege was taken away from me due to my conviction. I cannot give legal advice. Lifeline Capital Group will never take the facts of your case and apply it to law. That's forbidden by the state bar, and it's something that I lost the privilege of doing. So I cannot give you legal advice. I can't listen to your particular situation and apply it to law. What I can do is speak in general terms. Generally, this is what you see at a preliminary hearing. This is what you see at an arraignment. And then what we intend to do is something unique. Take each one of the hearings and the path throughout the entire criminal law case and tell you what you can expect from a financial standpoint. Get you prepared not only for the emotional, turmoil that you'll feel, but also the financial hit. And that's exactly what we're going to do. And we're going to give it to you from an insider's perspective that nobody else is going to be able to do, because fortunately, not too many people have ever been in my situation. So that's what I hope to offer from my perspective. Roy has a unique perspective that also plays beautifully into what we do.
Yeah, and my story is a little bit different, but just a quick question to follow up on you, Dave. What we've done is, we've created what we call an 18-month roadmap for people that are facing situations like this. Because you can't go into the specifics of their case, how predictable are a lot of these things that we'll talk about?
There's a lot, and I'm glad that you asked that, because I have my experience from doing this now for 25 years, almost 30 years. So I can't practice law right now, but I am permitted to be a consultant behind the scenes. So I work with a bunch of criminal defense lawyers up and down the state of California. I've got about 15 to 20 that I work with on a regular basis. And I consult with them and still do the research and writing and the legal aspects of it. So I'm still very, very much involved in that. But that experience has given me some predictability that I'm able to see on a daily basis, having done it myself. But more importantly, what we've been able to do is do research on a lot of the statistics out there. So for instance, we know that somebody who has been arrested but released, all right, they themselves are feeling great because they've been released. It's in their mind, it's their impression that in that circumstance, the case has been dismissed.
Everything's great.
Everything is great. And the reality is that the district attorney has within the statute of limitations in which to charge that offense. And so during that time period, what the district attorney is doing and the police is they are developing the case against you. Right? They are spending the time and the necessary resources to gather all the witnesses, gather all the statements, gather all the documents, and then they will charge you. The statistics are from the Department of Justice that 81% of all people who are arrested will then be charged. So if you're in that category, this is some information that we want to be able to give you. If you are in that category of having been arrested and released, you have to be smart about how you handle it from both a legal and a financial situation. We have countless examples of that we're going to be able to provide you each stage of the criminal prosecution, from I've been arrested, I haven't been charged, all the way to I've been convicted, now I'm seeking to appeal my case. So these are the types of things that we're going to work on giving you from, like I said, from a very insider's perspective, something that you're not going to get from anybody else because they just don't have the experience, including how you handle your finances. God forbid that you end up in custody, right? What do you do in those circumstances? What do you need money for? We'll be able to answer those questions for you. And that's what we plan to do in this podcast.
Phenomenal. That's a big number, 80%. And what sold me was when we met, our cases were very different. I also kind of ran up against the wall, my story being a little bit different, but the whole result and the processes and the emotional roller coaster that we went through was very much the same. So with me, I got into finance at a very young age. I was a high school dropout. I was your stereotypical troubled kid, I guess you could say, but I had a lot of determination to be the best at everything I did. So I got into finance. I started, luckily, working for a company where I could start trading fixed income portfolios for banks and credit unions. And shortly after that, I got into a Fortune 100 company that was a finance firm where I got to manage portfolios for very high net worth individuals. I got greedy. I performed. They were taking 60% of my money, my commission that I felt was mine. So I decided I'm going to the investment banking side of business. And I went over to a small little boutique firm where I learned how to talk to upper management of microcap, small and mid-sized companies that traded on the public markets. I learned your typical, if you ever watch these movies, Boiler Room and Wolf of Wall Street, I mean, that was me 20 years ago, and we were killing it. I went from no income to 4 or 5 digit income monthly, and that dollar sign just drove my passion for everything. So it changed in a matter of 3 minutes for the most part. One morning I got a loud bang on the door. I thought it was a neighbor screwing around with me. I went there, I opened it, and there's 8 guns pointing at me, yelling, "Get on the ground." I'm like, what the hell is going on here? I didn't know what was going on still for at least another 24 hours, but I got taken in and handcuffed, and I got put through a very traumatic and traumatizing situation. My wife was there. My kid was there. They were very young. Well, we were all very young at the time. And it was rough. It was a life-changing thing. I got put through arraignment. I still didn't know what the hell was going on. A public defender finally came in and told me my charges. I didn't even know what those charges meant, So, after that period, I had a waiting game of, I think it was like 8 months of when I went to trial or when that process started. And in that time period, the emotions that I ran into were from everything to, I'm just going to end the situation by ending myself at this moment, to forget that, I'm stronger than that, I'm just going to leave the damn country. And
what's interesting is that you and I have and it's great for this podcast because you took it all the way and fought, right? And so the cost and the toll, right? There are plenty of people who are in the situation right now where they've been charged with a crime, and they say, there ain't no way I'm taking any deal, rack them, give me 12, the first 12, and we're going to trial. All right.
And it happens.
And so we'll get to hear your perspective, both from an emotional and a financial standpoint, as you progress through. I, on the other hand, was, pretty much a pussy. I understood the system very much. I mean, that's the God's honest truth, because I knew what I was up against. I know that the government has all of the resources. I know that when they came in and they went into my house and raided me, they had already been investigating for a year and a half. That I was so much farther behind the 8 ball. I also knew I was guilty. And so as a result of that, I thought, So I wanted to take the first plea, as I could, just get in there and get out. And it still cost an enormous amount, again, both financially and emotionally. So it'll be interesting to hear as time progresses how we navigated that system.
Absolutely. I agree. I mean, at that time, I lost 3 homes. We short sold one, and we had time to sell the other ones because I started thinking ahead. But my first thought was, how the hell am I going to pay for all this? Right? I want to fight this. I started going through evidence, over 200,000 pages of evidence I went through with a court-appointed attorney, a public defender. He was a mess. Eventually, he turned out to kind of get his head around the whole case. I was like, look, they've got nothing on me, man. I went through 200,000 documents in 4 days, and I didn't see a damn thing that pointed directly at me. On the other hand, he didn't want to do that. So right in the beginning, I was at ends with my public defender.
Well, and here's the thing, and that's what's another commonality and interesting, and part of the reason why we created what we did. So I too, the first thing I had to do was try to figure out, how am I going to afford to do this? And despite the fact that I was an attorney, despite the fact that I was making very good money, I was also spending all of my money. So if you were to look at my life at the time, I had some really nice things, some expensive things. I had a boat, I had a nice house, I had a nice car, I had all of these things.
The world.
But I was still living paycheck to paycheck. So when I got hit with the investigation, I'm looking at a bank account that didn't have any money, or certainly not enough to cover what I was going to do. And so here's an interesting statistic. Again, we know that the vast majority of people, 65, 70% of people, their entire wealth is held in their home. Right? It's held in their house. And
That's
that's
right.
the biggest investment people have is in their house. So
That's
when
right.
I'm looking, and that was me, right? I had a few $1,000s in my savings account. I had a little bit tucked away for my retirement. But at the end of the day, I had to use the equity in my house in order to cover the enormous costs that were going to come barreling down on my way, despite the fact that all I was going to do was enter into a plea as quickly as possible. So that's kind of how Lifeline was created, and things that we want to be able to help others understand and do.
And I wish we could emphasize how many times we've already heard that in the past, since we put this project together. I've got no money. Well, you know what? A lot of you really do have money, and we're here to creatively help you find that, figure that out, as well as navigate you through the next 18 months of
and to come to that realization as quickly as possible, because the truth of the matter is the people that we are talking to are the people that are facing long prison sentences. All right, so this is not a time to be frugal. This is not the time for you to cut corners. All right, we are talking about your freedom. We are talking about your financial success throughout, and we're going to show you all the different areas. Again, we got about 15 areas of massive financial burdens that are going to come your way just as a result of being accused. It doesn't even talk about whether or not you're convicted. And the sooner you appreciate that and the sooner you get on top of it, the better you will fare. 100%. We have the statistics. For instance, staying out of custody. It is imperative that you fight your case out of custody, not from behind a bar. We have the statistics to show you as to how many people successfully defend themselves out of custody and those that successfully defend themselves in custody. And those are numbers that we're looking forward to sharing with you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so for this particular episode, I think, we want to leave these nice, short and sweet. We just want to drive that point across that you do have hope. There is hope. There are options. We had them. We just didn't see them. If I had a lifeline for me during that time period, then I may not be in the same situation I got myself into at the later date, right? We ended up becoming renters, starting all over again and going all through everything. And as you can see, even by this podcast, we're not out traveling, spending millions of dollars. We got a very bootstrap podcast here, and we're tight with our money. We love to be tight with the money, and you should be too. And if you're asking yourself, why don't I have the best defense ever or possible, then that shouldn't even be a question at this point. Would you like to leave our viewers with any other comments there, David?
Yeah, just, I agree with you. I echo the things that you say. We were there. We understand it. And what we are desperately trying to do is convey to everybody the importance of having options, all right, and making sure that you can appreciate that due to the seriousness of this, the sooner you are able to get in front of it, the better. So we have free resources on our website, www.lifelinecapitalgroup.com. You're going to find things from sample fee agreements, the different ways in which lawyers charge. You're going to see different accounts and their potential punishments. You're going to see things from the Department of Justice, frequently asked questions. Depending on whatever your charge is, you're going to have some information in there. We have recommendations for lawyers and reputable bail bondsmen. We give you information about how to avoid being scammed by any of them. So there's a bunch of free resources that are on our site, and we encourage you to take a look at that. We encourage you to give us a call when you have a chance to talk about where you are in the process, and we can do a nice asset evaluation, how we can creatively help you get through this whole process and make sure that you're successful at the end.
Absolutely. If you have any questions at all, call us. If you're in the OC area, call us at 949-503-8588. We'll put all the numbers on the screen here for you. If you're in the LA area, you can call us at 213-816-8878. And make sure you join us for our next episode. We're going to be talking about arrests and arraignments. What are the first steps that matter for you? Because the longer you sit and wait, the harder it becomes.
For sure.